So the greatest has left us, the one who said, "I am the greatest." Muhammad Ali, certainly one of the greatest champions of all time, one of the greatest characters of our lifetime. When I heard that he had died, my mind went back, I guess it was 30 years ago, when I had a conversation with Muhammad Ali. I was in Sydney, Australia, speaking at the entertainment center for a week. And one afternoon I walked into the Boulevard Hotel where we were staying, and I saw over in a corner there was a little group of people gathered around someone. And I was curious, so I walked over and looked over and peered, and there was the king himself, the greatest, Muhammad Ali, holding court. All these people around him, and the banter was going back and forth. So I stood a few minutes and listened to this, and then when he slowed down for a bit, I kind of pushed through the crowd and shook his hand and introduced myself and said, "Muhammad, I'm so pleased to meet you. I'm Leighton Ford, and I'm Billy Graham's brother-in-law." And I remember his face just lit up, and he said, "Oh, Billy." He said, "I love Billy." He said, I've been up to see him up at a house there in Montreat, and he signed a book for me." And we got into a very interesting conversation. He was not only very articulate, I found him to be a very engaging and very bright man. And of course, he became a Muslim, as we know. But he said, I've traveled all over the world, and I've seen all these different religions. And he said, it seems to me that they all have the same thing. He said, it's kind of like you have a river, and you have a lake, and you have a pond and a stream, but they all have water in them. So they're all the same, aren't they? Well, I'd never heard anybody put it quite like that. So I said, Muhammad, that's very interesting. A lake, a river, a pond, and a stream, and they all have water in them. But I said, suppose you have all of them, and suppose they're all polluted. The river, the lake, the pond, and stream. Then you need a purifier, don't you? And I said, you see, that's who Jesus is. Jesus is the purifier. And he thought about that a minute, and he said, that's good. He said, I never thought about it quite like that. Jesus is the purifier. And then I knew that Muslims don't particularly like us to talk about Jesus being the Son of God, because they interpret that in some physical way that God had relations with Mary, which of course isn't true. So I said, Jesus is called in the Bible the second Adam. He said, I didn't know that. I said, yes, the first Adam that God made in the first creation, and the second Adam was Jesus, the new creation, in whom everyone can become new. And he said, I've got to think about that. Well, it was 30 years ago. I haven't seen him since. I know that the greatest, as he calls himself, has met the one who alone is really the greatest, because all great ones pass away. But he's come face to face with the one great God. I wonder what Muhammad Ali would have to say. Or maybe he'd say, God, what do you have to say?